Well, we just picked up a 2008 Yamaha YFZ450. Got this thing for 1,800 bucks. It was up for 22, offered 18, actually I offered 17, and he said he needed 18, so got this thing for 1,800 bucks, which is a pretty good deal. Typically these go for 35 in my area. He said he bought it for 45, like 5 or 6 years ago. But the story on this one is that he bought it 5 or 6 years ago, rode it a couple times, put it in a shed, and then he took it out this year and it was smoking like crazy. So he rode it around for a little bit. He doesn't know what's going on with it. He said it shuts off randomly sometimes, and then it smokes a ton. And I rode this thing in the video, you guys could see, and it was doing exactly what he said. Smokes a ton on startup, and even when you're riding it, the smoke continues. And then it randomly shuts off because I think it's either grounding out something on the frame when you turn the handlebars, because it's only when you turn it like cuts off the machine, or it's like starving for fuel. I don't know if the gas cap isn't venting properly or what, but it's only when you turn it like cuts out. It's really, really weird. So today we're gonna dig into this thing and see what's going on with it. I'm hoping we can get away with a good carb clean and a spark plug change, and maybe that will help our smoking problem. It could be just running really, really rich. It doesn't really smell like oil coming out of the exhaust, and it doesn't really smell like coolant. So I'm not sure what it is. Almost like there's water in the gas, but he said he drained the gas and added new fuel. So who knows? But we're gonna start digging into it, see what we find, and see if we can fix this thing up. So as you can see, pretty good condition for 1,800 bucks. No rips in the seat. Plastics are pretty decent. Somebody cut the plastics right here and right there. And then this thing's pretty much stock except for the elbow racing Nerf bars. Has different wheels on it. It's got the front bumper. That's aftermarket. The gas cap. And what else? The grab bar. Got the stock exhaust on there, stock seats, stock plastics, stock bars. So I'm guessing the engine stock. Some milky oil could be a couple different things. Blown head gasket, or water pump seals are leaking. Looks to be pretty low on oil. I don't think the dipstick can even pick it up. Take a dipstick and looks pretty clear to me. Quite a bit in there. Yeah, it's pretty clear. No milkiness in the oil. And this thing had moments of running pretty good, as you could see in the GoPro footage. But a lot of times it would cut out, stall, randomly shut off, and smoke a ton. Alright, there's no air box, but air filter looks really good, all oiled up. Looks pretty new. Looks like this thing had the battery mod done to it, where they cut that out to make a bigger battery fit. Alright, gas cap vent appears to be working. I can blow through that. So right now the gas is on. We'll turn that off. I just want to see what the gas flow looks like coming out of the petcock here. Looks like there's an inline filter there. Let's see what this gas flow looks like. It was on this setting right here. Pretty good gas flow. So gas flow probably wasn't the problem. I'm just gonna check and see if any of the wiring is hitting the frame here. That looks pretty good. Because something when you twist the handlebars, it's like grounding out. All right. Doesn't look like anything's been taken apart too many times. I'm looking for any frayed wires. Anything that would grind out to the frame here. That's all zip tied, so that wouldn't be the problem. Neutral connection is nice and tight. Let's see if there's coolant in here. Yep, that's topped off. That's good. Alright, spark plug's way down there. Let's get that out. It's pretty black. A little carbon on there. So it definitely could be burning oil. Alright, we've got the plug grounded out. Let's see if there's any spark. Oh yeah, good spark. Alright, we've got nice blue spark, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. So spark plug probably isn't fouled. We'll change that out anyway. YFZs, they have the decompression mechanism on the cam, so as the engine spins over, it's easier for the battery to crank the engine, and it releases compression. So typically you really can't test compression on these very accurately, at least, but people that have the decompression mechanism on their cam typically read around 90 psi for a healthy engine. So we should be right around 90 psi. We'll see what we get here. And that's going to be with the throttle open. There's 100, so it should be like right around there. Let's see what we get. Hopefully it's something close. Throttle open, hit the start button. We're only getting 50 psi. Let me hook up a jumper to the battery and really crank it. Cranks a little better now. Alright, we're getting 60. So, it's probably a tad low, which could be due to a couple different things. It could be rings are worn, or it could be the valves need adjusting. Alright, so what we're going to do is put a little Marvel Mystery Oil down the cylinder. I want to see if that compression spikes up. If it does, we know it's the rings. Also, this should help free up those rings if they are stuck to the piston. It has been sitting for a while. So that's definitely a possibility. Someone's revving their truck out in the background. Compression goes up at all. Yeah, compression shot up. So it looks like we're at 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds of compression now. So it's leaning towards rings right now. We're gonna let this sit with a little bit of that marble mystery oil down here. That seems to work pretty well for freeing up rings. Alright, so a lot of times with lower compression, it can be the rings and the valves. So we'll check the valves next, those valve clearances, see where those are at. A lot of times we're going to be seeing tight intake valves on a machine like this. So that's what we can look for. Alright, let's check that cam chain. It's nice and tight. It's perfect. Not seeing any metal shavings or anything up here. That's good. And it looks like we've got a stock cam on there. Here's our decompression mechanism. We know that's working. Till we see a mark here. Typically it's a T or a line. And we'll see if the timing's on too. Should be right about there. Not seeing anything. Huh. Looks like timing's off. If you look in here, you can see there's the line lined up with the groove in the crankcase. If we come up here, the cams, you can see the dot is right there and right there. And on this one, it's down there and right there. So this dot is supposed to be parallel with the surface of the head right here. So it looks like it's about 1 tooth off. Alright, so we're definitely off a tooth, at least a tooth, on both cams. So, alright, we gotta kind of move this carb out of the way a little bit to get to that tensioner. We got one out. You can take this line off too. Tensioner's off. Tensioner feels good. If that was bad, that would retract back without a ton of pressure. So it looks pretty good. Cam, if we can't get this chain off, if it's too tight. Alright, now we can try to move this cam. This one's got to move one tooth down. Right there. And then we can do the intake after this too. Let's see what that looks like. So that's perfect right there. So you can see where that dot lines up now. Right there, perfectly parallel with the surface of the head there. Move this one tooth. Move the gutter. All right. Now that dot is parallel with the surface of the head. That dot's parallel with the surface of the head. So that's how that's supposed to look. Before, that dot was under and that dot was over. So that looks perfect. All right, now that the timing is spot on, we can adjust the valves if we need to. So intake are going to be 4 thousandths to 6 thousandths, and exhaust are 8 to 10 thousandths. So as long as we're in that range, we should be good. Let's test the intake first. Typically the intake are the ones that go tight. Stick a 5 thousandths in there and see what happens. That's pretty tight. That one's pretty tight. That one's tight. That one slid in. Looks like we've got one really tight intake valve here. Yep. Let's check the exhaust, so we'll go to 8 thousandths right away. Yep, that one slides in. That one slides in. So exhaust, valves look good. We have one intake valve that's tight over here. So let's adjust that. So a lot of times you can remove this cam just enough to get that bucket out without messing up the timing. Grab that bucket out of there. So there's the bucket and the shim. So now we can re-shim it. Alright, so we got the shim out. We measured that to be 1.74, 1.75. So we wrote down that measurement right here. So that's the shim size. We measured the clearance of the valve to be at 0. We're assuming it's 0 because we don't have negative feeler gauges, obviously. So we're assuming 0. We want 5 thousandths of an inch of a gap, or 0.127 millimeters. So this should actually be that. So we want to get to that. So in order to get to that, what we have to do is take the shim size and subtract that from this. So we're taking the shim size, subtracting the 5 thousandths, or 0.127 millimeters, and that will give us a new shim size of 1.623 millimeters. And depending on if that's 0 or less than 0, we'll have to change that. So the only way we can do it is keep testing shims. So we'll put the new shim in. If it's still low, we'll have to come back and re-shim it. But that's the first step. Now we're looking for a shim size of 1.623. So here's 1.6, here's 1.65, 1.66, that's pretty close. Keep that one. 1.65, that's even closer. I think that's as close as we're gonna get. 1.59, 1.6. Let's use that one. All right, when adjusting the valves, you want to make sure that the cam holder is tightened down all the way. So now that that's tightened down, we can test this. We've got the 5 thousandths feeler gauge going in. And you can see that just slides in there. So that one doesn't need any further adjusting. And then all these are good. These are set to 4 thousandths, this one's at 5 thousandths, these are at 8 thousandths. So we can put everything back together. All right, now that we have the timing spot on and the valves adjusted, I'm kind of curious to see what the compression is going to be. So let's get a compression tester in there. Check that. Yeah. That was the problem. Wow. Now we're at 160. So that intake valve was definitely tight. Right, let's get this carb out of here. We already disconnected the throttle cable from the other side. And now we should be able to get this thing out of here. Hopefully. And we're gonna see if this accelerator pump works. A lot of times they don't. There we go. These 2 wires can come off here. Ooh, that one was barely held on. Ooh, and that wire's pulled out. Check this out. That blue wire right there, you can see it's pulled out of there. So that wasn't making contact with that switch either. Alright, accelerator pump. Let's see if it's squirting gas. You guys seen anything? Not seeing any gas coming out of there. So accelerator pump, it's not working either. Looks pretty clean. Looks like that's clear. Take a look at the float. Alright, get that out of here. Needle looks good. Looks really good. I believe that's a stock main jet, but we'll take a look. That was clear. Here's the pilot. Running a 48 pilot, and that looks clear. So pilot checks out. Here's a little starter jet in here. Running a 90 for the starter jet. It's pretty big, but that was clear as well. And then we've got our little fuel screw right here. Simi turns in. 1, 2, 2 turns out. And that was missing the washer and the O-ring that goes in there. Alright, so the little squirter right here for the accelerator pump. So that gets fed gas through here, that passageway, and gets shot out through the squirter. So to test that, you can actually put some brake cleaner directly in here, spray it, and see if it comes out through the squirter. And it's not coming out. So that is clogged. So that's most likely why the accelerator pump wasn't working, but we'll check the accelerator pump too to make sure. It's around there pretty good. Ooh. Yeah, that diaphragm is junk. Look at that. That looks terrible. So that's the other reason that wasn't working. See that big hole in there? So unfortunately, that diaphragm is no longer good. All right, we found a diaphragm for it off an old carb. This one looks a lot better. And we stole the O-ring off of that as well for there and here. So new O-rings that are a lot better. The other ones were pretty brittle, you can see. I mean, there's no, that just broke right in half. So here's the old diaphragm again. See, that was junk, so this is what they're supposed to look like. All right, we're running a 168 main, that's stock, and a 48 pilot, that's stock. We're gonna check and see if the accelerator pump's working now. We got that passageway cleared too. Oh yeah, look at that squirt now. That's what that should look like. So that's working. All right, we got the wire fixed here. So that shouldn't be pulled out anymore. You can see we shoved that wire back in. Then we fixed this one as well. It's probably gonna be really smoky right away because we put oil down the cylinder, so we'll see if it clears up. Quite a bit. Alright, so it's smoking pretty bad. We are going to let it run for a little bit, see if that oil can clear out of the cylinder. Still smoking a ton. We took it for a little ride and it did not clear up at all. And it's pretty blue smoke, so I'm thinking it's oil burning. It's running way better though. It's just smoking still. So what I'm thinking is that somebody installed the piston rings upside down, scraping the oil up instead of down. Alright, I'm curious to see what this oil looks like. We might do a quick oil change on it. See if that makes a difference. Maybe the oil's really, really thin. That's getting by those rings. We will see here. There's a little in there. It's not milky at all. It's pretty black. All right, here's the oil that came out of it. Not a whole lot in there. Doesn't look that bad. No metal chunks or anything. So we're gonna add some fresh stuff and see if it still smokes. All right, so we're gonna put a half a quart into the stator side here, and then the other quart and a half, this takes 2 quarts, in the oil tank. Alright. Alright, oil is changed. Let's see if she still smokes here. Oh yeah. Alright, it's still smoking pretty bad, and if you look right here, you can actually see oil seeping past down the exhaust gasket and pooling right there. So it's definitely getting a lot of oil to the top end, into the cylinder, and it's definitely burning oil. So something is going on. So if you're about to break something off, a bolt, I like to twist it in and then out. There we go. You can see a lot of carbon buildup in there. There's oil being burnt out from the pipe there. Valve cover coming off. You can see that looks perfect. Lobes are perfect. Bearing is super smooth. Auto decompress is working. Oh, check that out. Bearing looks perfect. Lobes look perfect. That looks good. washers on those. Washers on those as well. Alright, now this should come off. We forgot the oil line. Still on there. Alright, that came off pretty easily. So it looks like piston is in the correct way. You can see the carbon buildup on there. So the cylinder has one bolt right there we have to take off, and then that should slide out. We can take the guide out. See what that looks like. That's a little chewed up. Definitely need a new guide. Bolt right here. All right, what do you guys think? Think the rings are stuck? Or just really worn out? Behind here. Ooh, looks like cylinder. It's rubbed off right there. Yeah, it looks like the cylinder's rubbed off. Rings are not stuck at all. That looks good. Huh. No blow by. Piston looks really good. At least from this side. You can see none of the rings are stuck. Oil rings aren't stuck. Squirter, oil squirter still intact there. There's the piston here. Piston looks really good. I wonder if those rings were on backwards though, or upside down I should say. We'll go check that out, but that doesn't look that bad. There's not a ton of carbon. And then the rod. No up and down play at all. Just a tiny side to side. Yeah, it looks perfect. So bottom end, we looked out, is perfect. All right, let's take a look at the cylinder first. You can see the wear marks right here. I think it's going through that Nickel coating there. See that? I'm not sure why that would happen. Maybe somebody tried to hone this when they rebuilt it. But you can see there's actually like a little chip right there. But yeah, the Nickel plating is gone in a couple spots. Here's the head. Here's the head gasket. You can see a lot of carbon on the valves. Surface looks really good though. No cracking or anything there either. I'll have to check out the valve seals and see what those look like. Here is the piston. So here's the first ring. We're going to see if it was put on wrong. So this was the upside. So it looks like there is a T right there. You can kind of see it. So that ring was on correctly. Second ring. Let's see what that looks like. This is the upside. Yeah, no markings on this one at all. No marking on the second ring. It doesn't look like there's any bevels on this one either. So, looks like rings were installed correctly. Yeah. Fits pretty good. Alright, ring gap. Let's see how bad these rings are. This is the second ring going on. Yeah, that's pretty bad. You can see the ring gap right there. That's massive. So I think rings were just worn out. Let's see if I can fit all these feeler gauges. Yep. So I can fit these 4 feeler gauges in there. So that's 47, 69, 90. So all these 4 add up to 90 thousandths, and it's supposed to be 14 thousandths. So a little bit off. Here's the first ring. Yeah, that's pretty bad too. So I think rings were just really worn. That looks to be about 90 thousandths as well. A big gap there. So ring gaps are massive on it. It's a good thing we tore this thing down. And then I'm not sure as to why the cylinder wore out, but it could just be from overuse. This might be a 2008 with the original cylinder and piston in it. So I think it just got worn down, and maybe at one point it ran a little low on oil. Or maybe from sitting so long, the top end didn't have any oil, and then the first start it just scraped all that off because the rings were stuck out or something. I'm not sure, but it took off quite a bit of that cylinder coating. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But it looks like we need a new piston and rings. That might be the original piston in there, and then a new cylinder. So I think a cylinder and a piston, I think the kits are like 350 bucks. So not too bad. Could have been a lot worse. And when this thing is done, it's probably worth around $3,000 to $3,500. Bottom end looks perfect. And everything else in the machine is really good. So I was hoping we could get away with not tearing apart the top end today. I thought maybe the smoking would be a rich condition on the carburetor, but it turns out the piston rings are super worn, cylinder's worn, and it just needs a new fresh top end. And obviously we're going to be doing the valve seals too. So we'll take all the valves out, clean them up, get all that carbon off, and then replace the valve seals too, just to make sure, because that could also be why it was smoking. But the main reason was the rings and the worn cylinder. So we'll go to eBay, order up some parts, and next video we're going to rebuild it and see if that smoking goes away. But still a pretty good deal at $1,800, even though it needs a new cylinder and piston. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are out.